Hello, you guys! Welcome back to Students Ace Life. I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful week and a wonderful day. Today's video is about how you can study for finals. More specifically, it's for students who don't know exactly how to study for finals or might not feel motivated to get themselves to actually study. So with that said, if you enjoy these tips, please comment down below, like, and subscribe. And if you have any content suggestions, please let me know in the comments below. For most students, studying for exams seems to be such a complicated and overwhelming process, and they sometimes go about it the wrong way, or they just don't bother at all because they don't know how to study and they don't know how to get themselves to actually study. And both will be addressed in this guide. However, let me start by saying that true knowledge and true understanding of any subject isn't just memorization of facts. It's not just knowing the content and absorbing it. It is being able to apply it. And not just apply it in the real world, although that's very important and that's actually more necessary in my opinion than being able to apply it on an exam. But in order to have good grades, you need to be able to apply the content after you've understood it in this context of that exam specifically. So you need both. You need understanding and you need to be able to apply it in that specific context of the exam. My number one tip is to forget about the test. Forget that you need to get a grade, a specific grade that you want. Forget about you being tested. Forget about the results. I'm not going to be one of those people that tell you the grades don't matter, because obviously in our society that's not true. The grades do matter, the numbers do matter. They affect everything from college admissions to federal aid to mortgage loans. You need the grades. The statistics tell you what kind of person the society deems valuable for specific services. And I'm not going to say that that's a bad thing or a wrong thing, because we need some kind of measurement system on which to base the distribution of services and opportunities. That said, your sole concern as a student should not be the grade. Even though it does matter, you should not be so consumed by the results that you forget the true essence of it. And the true essence is knowing the stuff, is knowing the content, and it's actually applying it to your life and understanding it on a deeper level. Not for any external goal like a grade, but for what it means to you internally. Why do you need to understand it? Because as human beings, we're so good at avoiding things that we don't like. And if you don't like what you're learning, if you're not truly interested in it, you're going to do the job half-heartedly and you're going to feign the process. And when you feign the process, you're not going to get good results either way. So might as well enjoy what you're learning about. And I understand that we're not all interested in the same things. I understand that some subjects you're not going to truly like or be interested in, and that's okay. You don't have to be interested in the very thing you're learning. You could be interested in the actual process of learning and in the actual act of learning instead of this thing you're learning about. For the second tip, you have to make a study guide, because you need to have a specific goal and a specific plan or idea of what you need to be able to study, retain, and prove on the actual test. So how do you make a study guide? Well, there are many different ways to go about it, but for me specifically, the way that I do it is I write topics, like topic titles, and then beneath each topic title, I put a subtopic. So let's say I have a unit. I have a unit for a topic, and then under each topic, I have a subtopic. So that's one thing that I learned in that unit, like a section. And then I have a bullet point of a main idea, a main equation or fact or event that I need to memorize or know that is related to the subtopic. Most likely you already do some form of the aforementioned study guide. So the more advanced way to go about it is to put an example question or an example problem beneath each subtopic and beneath each bullet point of the equation or fact or event that you wrote down. So having an example and having a question or problem that you can solve and work on just gives you this ability to practice what you'll be tested on, because just knowing or glancing through the facts themselves isn't going to do you anything. you have to be able to apply it, and the way you apply it is through the examples and problems that you wrote down. If you want to be creative, you can come up with your own equations or problems or questions to solve. But if you want to do something that's quick and simple, you can use previous assignments and previous quizzes from that class and just select one equation or one problem or one practice question and plug it into your study guide so that you can go over it once you're studying. Tip number 3 is to make a schedule. So after you've made a study guide, after you've figured out exactly what you need to study, the next step is to figure out when you'll be studying. If you don't know when, you're just not gonna wanna do it, and you're not gonna do it because you don't have a specific time slot wherein you have planned to do the studying. And the way I do that is I look at the date of the test and I work backwards. I look at what day I'll be tested, and then I divide the work across board from then to the test. So let's say I have a test in 2 weeks. I will divide the work in the study guide for that test across those 2 weeks. But it's not gonna be a simple division problem of whatever many units divided by 14 days. It's not gonna be that simple because usually I have many other things going on in those 2 weeks. So sometimes I'll not be able to study for that specific exam on a single day or many days. So some days I'll have to do multiple units for the exam in one sitting or in one time slot instead of dividing them equally across the 2 weeks. That goes to say that you should figure out what your own lifestyle is and what events you are attending and what you have going on, and divide the work with that in mind. So it doesn't have to be equally divided. Just make a clear schedule that you can follow. Because if it doesn't fit your lifestyle and if it doesn't fit the things that you do, and if you can't carry it out, then you're not going to do it. Because if you have other things going on and you plan to study for an AP Calc Unit 5 test on Monday, but you're out all day, then you're not going to study. So make a schedule that you can actually carry out and stick to, something that's realistic. Tip number 4 is to not go over notes. I can't tell you how many times students that I know would go over notes and scan the notes that they've took weeks or months previous to an exam and think that they've studied. It's not the same thing. Please don't equate going over notes or skimming your textbook or notebook to real studying, because they're not the same. Studying, the real definition of studying, is the devotion of time and attention to acquiring knowledge, especially on an academic subject, by means of books. That's not the same thing as glancing or going over notes. They're not the same thing. Don't try to make it sound like you've studied when you've literally just glanced over notes. Why does it matter? Because studying has to be an active process, and when you're just reading over something, you're just using one sense, the visual sense, and that's not an active process, and you're not going to retain any information.